Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 267 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on July 15th, 2025. Hope you're all doing well. Things are good here. A lot of work to be done. So there's some great testing going on, some great analysis going on. Man, a lot of coding, all kinds of things. I had to actually, I was in the middle of writing code, and I had to stop because I had to get my mind kind of in the creative mode instead of the analytical mode. It's like, I don't know if sometimes you jump between various tasks during your workday. I sometimes have to like flip a switch in my brain, and I had to like recalibrate, because sometimes if you're sitting here coding or something, you could lose yourself and you look up and 8 hours have passed and you're like, oh my God, I forgot to eat or whatever. So I'm like, so it's been really busy, but I'm glad you've been able to join us today. On today's episode, we're going to hit the technical discussion of last week's white paper, the CAT TSWIF on the 14.5-inch M4. So we're going to also talk about the 300 blackout SIG MCX again. We got the new Rattler LT that we ordered. Yeah, and so I, of course, took that apart completely and measured some things to figure out the differences between it and the Virtus gun that we showed you test data for already. So we're going to see what we see and where we decide to go from here with regard to that test apparatus. I'm also going to give you some qualitative thoughts on the LT compared to the Virtus, because many of you have asked for that, and yeah, I haven't shot the LT yet. Literally, we just got our order from SIG yesterday, so haven't shot it, just took it apart, but I'll be able to give you some impressions nonetheless. Okay, so on with the show. If you've been here before, welcome back. Glad to have you. Awesome. If you're new to the podcast, boy, oh boy, glad to have you. Just to orient you, we have timestamps in every episode description on whatever platform you're listening on. It doesn't matter where you're hearing this podcast. Look at the episode description. There's timestamps so you can skip wherever to wherever you would like. All right. So real quick, I'm going to tell you about our sponsors who make this podcast possible. It's pretty cool. We have Legion Athletics. Nothing you do, exercise, sports, or anything was worth doing without consistency. That's the name of the game. You have to do things all the time if you want to excel at them. Legion Athletics can help you with that. They provide you with supplements, whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, creatine, vitamins, minerals, all kinds of stuff. They don't have everything you need for your supplementation regimen, but they have, I would say, the vast majority of what you need now, especially now that they carry creatine, which is the most studied sports supplement known to man. And if you don't use creatine, you don't have to get it from Legion. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Literally, go get creatine monohydrate. The benefits are ridiculous. LegionAthletics.com. There's a link in the show notes. Code word PewScience. You get buy one, get one 50% off your entire shopping cart. And then you get 20% cash back on everything you buy going forward using that code, which is nuts, dude. So if you're going to buy supplements, why wouldn't you use Legion, right? Sponsor Shop sponsors this podcast. They've done a ton for the sponsor industry, a ton for consumers nationwide. If you're looking to get started in the space and you're a dealer, man, putting a sponsor shop kiosk in your dealership, it's like, come on down to Tesla Auto Mall. Everything's computer. No, you can use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically, cut down on errors, simplify your sponsor purchasing process, get a money back guarantee. It's pretty good. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your sponsor with no drama. Truly a sponsor ownership simplified. We're sponsored by Top Gun Range Houston. They are a sponsor shop dealer in Houston. They have a large indoor shooting range, 15 lanes. It's crazy. You can rent all the firearms. You can rent silencers and shoot them there too. So if you're in Houston and you have business there, which you probably do, just by the numbers, I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast are in Texas, and a lot of people in Texas are in Houston. So as you're passing through, go shoot guns with Kyle and his crew at Top Gun. They're so cool. There's even couches you can sit on and chill. Maybe have a beer. Maybe don't have a beer before you shoot. But I'm not the boss of you. Okay, TopGunRange.com. Also, this podcast is brought to you by Capital Armory. Did you know that Texas is awesome? And we have all these awesome dealers here. Capital Armory is one of them. And did you know that they can ship your silencer directly to your door? They can help you with the paperwork, do everything like that. But they can, if you order sponsor from Capital Armory, they can literally ship it to your house. And if you work nights or you're super busy and working like 9 jobs like me, maybe you don't have time to go to a gun store. One thing that's cool about Capital Armory, besides the convenience of shipping it to your house, is they're actually true gun guys. Like, they actually really, really understand silencers and silencer performance. They don't just sell them. They're actually silencer enthusiasts, which I know that might not sound like a big deal, especially nowadays, but I can tell you from experience, they've been around a long time shooting silencers and not just selling them. That's important, okay? Also, this podcast is brought to you by the Pew Science Laboratory. I'm the technical director of the lab, and right before I started recording this, I was literally doing laboratory work for some simulations we're doing. And in the interest of public education, we have chosen to sponsor this podcast, continue to run a public research effort that continues to push the silencer industry forward one test at a time. If you can visit our website at pewscience.com. You will see the suppression rating, which is a public metric we've developed that everyone uses now because it's awesome. I am a little biased when I say that, but it's awesome. I use it myself. It's the simplest, most accurate hearing safe rating for suppressed small arms based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before the combustion takes place all the way to all the combustion is gone. And it's the home of the Silencer Sound Standard Guide, 7 sections, the most in-depth and accurate silencer data analysis in the entire known universe, all available to the public 24/7 at pewscience.com. And remember, we don't sell silencers, we don't make them, we don't distribute them, we don't design them. We only test them and analyze them, okay? We want you to know how silencers work because we want to know how they work. That's it. All right, pewscience.com. You can support the podcast and Pew Science and all the work we do by joining the membership at pewscience.com. And I should say, yeah, you get more data. That's cool. And you support the best science research in the world. That's cool too. But also, there's like member deals on there now too, which is cool. You got a member deals page. There's like coupon codes and stuff for you guys. You should use them. I mean, you're going to save money if you use them, and you don't have to, but there's literally a bunch of stores on there with like coupon codes and stuff. So save money if you're a member. All right. Also, if you don't want to be a member because times are tight and the economy's got you down and inflation's crazy and you're eating beans and rice and you're listening to this at a public library, that's cool, dude. No problem. You don't have to join. But if you want to throw your lunch money to us every once in a while, you can do a one-time donation on the website, on the review page of the podcast page, okay? Every little bit helps. Thank you. Be awesome. And you know what? You don't even have to give any money at all. You can just like give us a solid like a thumbs up or whatever, you know, like a good rating on the old podcast providers or the Facebooks or whatever you get this. I don't know. You could be listening on top of a mountain. I don't know where you listen to this. All I know is spread the word. It would be cool. 2 topics for you today. Topic 1, like I said, we're going to do the Cat TSWIF technical talk. And then topic 2, we're going to talk about the 300 Blackout Rattler LT, which is really the MCX, which is what SIG does. Topic 1, at a time of 8 minutes and 22 seconds. Okay, good enough. Good enough for government work. Oh, man. Used to say that. Still do. All right, topic 1, Sound Signature Review 6193. Combat Application Technologies Cat TSWIF on the 14.5-inch 5.56 M4. Okay. Again, for those of you just joining us, and if you didn't listen to this, the last week's episode, this is a blast diverter micro silencer, okay? It's intended to be used with the blast diverters and flash suppressors from Apparition Instruments, Noveske Rifleworks, and others. Okay, we're going to go through the technical talk here. All right, so, and I trust that most of you have had time to review the report. I figured 1 week should be enough, correct? Yeah. So we did go over quite a bit of the physical characteristics of the silencer in the intro talk last episode, simply because its physical traits are kind of paramount to the entire reason it exists, right? But we're going to recap some of that right now and get a little more specific as it relates to performance. And then we can get into the test data and the analysis of the test data to see what makes it tick. Okay, sound good? Okay, very good. So let's just focus on the silencer for a second, and then we can talk about the muzzle device. And I think I have like 16 silencers on my desk in front of me, but let me grab this. So I got the AI Little Bomb and the TSWIF silencer module. Okay, just making sure I had those before I started blabbing about it. So the TSWIF itself is pretty small. The external portion you see is 2.6 inches long, and the part that sticks like into the blast diverter or kind of sinks in there is roughly like a inch and a quarter or so. So the first reflector, or the blast baffle as we like to call it in silencers, it has a threaded throat. Yeah, so those threads interface with the blast diverter. On this particular model for the AI Little Bomb, the threads are conventional direction righty-tighty. Yeah, I would assume that is because there's no reason to have a left-handed thread when you're screwing something to a muzzle device that's pinned and welded. The benefits of the left-hand thread go away, so no reason to make it different. On this, and probably because you're gonna, there's other systems like the Noveske KX3 that have conventional threading on the end too, so they probably want to stick with conventional right-hand threaded. I would think that's the reason. Forward of the first reflector, forward of the blast baffle, on its exterior, but on the interior when it's installed in the blast diverter, there's a clearing surface, and actually it's actually circumferential direct venting it to annular space. And so immediately forward of that is a taper interface. Yeah. So when you screw the TSWIF into a blast diverter, depending on what blast diverter is being used, the accompanying TSWIF model will seal to the diverter with a taper. That's outside the annulus, and that is how it stays installed. Right, so you put it on hand tight, and it just stays there. You don't have to wrench it onto your diverter, which is good. So you got to know by now or at least you don't. Let me say you don't have to wrench it onto this diverter. And I think that I've seen KX3s also have a kind of a tiny taper too, so you're probably good on there. So you got to know by now what is one of the hardest and harshest realities of silencer design. What's one thing that we all have, but we can't make more of, and we all have to deal with, and we can't get it back once it's gone. We talk about on the podcast all the time. The dimension of time. That's right. I'm going to keep saying that for years until you finally either end up being a dynamicist in some field or turn it off. If we could somehow bend time, boy howdy, would silencer design be way easier. People think about, oh man, I wish I could manipulate time. I would just hang out and read books and make $1 million at the stock market or something. I think about silencer design changing. Well, I think about those things too, but I think about silencer design changing. It would be way easier if we could bend time. Turns out we can't, though. Yeah, so, maybe in the next life. But so why am I bringing this up, though? It's because time is the reason short silencers are so difficult to design if you want them to perform well. And a lot of folks think it's all about volume. And you can just build out, not forward, and get the same performance benefits, And those folks would be wrong thinking that, as we've spoken about many times on the podcast, silencer design has an inherent limitation. You must leave the center axial passageway unobstructed. No matter what you do with conventional small munitions, you can't curve the bullet. It's not the movies, right? The bullet must travel axially through the bore. When the bullet uncorks and you get that first major blast load jet into the silencer, it's gonna chase that bullet down its path, and because time waits for no man and no silencer, that clock is starting. That clock starts ticking, and you have whatever distance you have to deal with that blast load, and that's all about time. And so you look at this silencer, and Cat really didn't have a lot of time to work with here. And yeah, and I know what you're thinking. Sure, if you count the blast diverter length, the total length of the system to the shoulder is 5 inches, and you may think to yourself, gosh, yeah, there are silencers that are 5 inches long total that could do a decent job. Like, here's a famous example that we've talked about already, the 5.56 Mini 2 from Surefire, right? And you would be 100% right. And we're going to get into that later in the talk today, but what folks might not realize is if you could control the entire design envelope in that 5 inches, Well, yeah, you can do a lot. Stay tuned to see some wild things from several companies, but when you're making a system that has to be completely adaptable to pretty much unknown initial blast load expansion conditions, I mean, you don't know what you're doing because your blast diverter could be anything inside. When you're making a system to adapt to that, you have to give yourself the best chance of performance in that short time window. I mean, when I say you have to, I say it would behoove you to. I mean, I'm just speaking in generalities. And so, looking at what Cat did here, the way they did it in the TSWIF, it's interesting, and it's somewhat simplistic in a way. That they simply shed all the blast load clearing to the circumference directly. And the entire frontal area of the reflecting surface is either baffle with threaded throat for the installation, or it's circumferential annular venting. There's not a lot of wasted space here, as you can imagine. And that's a simple way of making this thing translatable for early time behavior across mounts. Because you really got to think like what you would do across mounts. And so let's talk about the mount actually for a second, so we can talk about the holistic system, because we have to talk about both things to talk about the system. Now, the AI Little Bomb, it's definitely not a silencer, but it does have some load path elements that, like in conjunction with the TSWIF, could be helping with efficiency. Could be. I'm not going to speak definitively about that, because we would have to really, have to do some experimentation to vary. Anyway, what you're going to see if you look inside that blast diverter, if you look inside carefully, you're going to see the blast load expansion can enter annular pads in the diverter, along with entering the really big primary bore area, okay, to expand there. So when the TSWIF isn't installed, it's really not doing much of anything but focusing the blast. It is doing something to the wave shape, but it's not protecting you. So don't think it's a protection mechanism. It's not. It's loud. When you install the TSWIF, it's likely that there's a little bit of volumetric flow change in the annular path in the diverter as it enters the TSWIF. The way that the diverter interfaces with the TSWIF, you feel me? So, and you'll see this if you look inside one. The $1 million question is, does that help suppression? The way that the blast diverter is designed, like, is it making the TSWIF more efficient? Is that particular diverter making the TSWIF more efficient? Like, for example, would the TSWIF perform similarly if the little bomb was completely devoid of any internal geometric features? Would be one question. And I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, it's something that would be really interesting to evaluate. One reason it's interesting is because if you use this thing, like if you use the TSWIF with a Noveske KX3, like the Flaming Pig, like, yeah, you have you'll have a different thread junction, so you're going to have to get the right TSWIF for that. But the question is, well, are the initial conditions formed by the first expansion chamber in that case going to be different enough to influence the performance in an interesting way from what we've seen in the report? That's like something I was wondering about. And like, to put it another way, because your blast chamber is formed by the dang blast diverter, right? And you make it bigger with the KX3, actually, because the KX3 is larger, or longer at least. But you're not shaping flow with the KX3. So are you robbing Peter to pay Paul in that case? Yeah, or is the extra expansion volume simply a welcome change and the performance shoots up? Does the TSWIF get better or higher performance with the Noveske KX3? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if we could test that sometime. I don't know if we will. I mean, certainly we will, maybe, but I don't know. One thing that I think is interesting about the system, and actually a side benefit of looking at it like this, it's making people think more about muzzle devices and their influence on performance. And we've been hollering about that for years, right? What's a famous muzzle device we kind of caused to not proliferate as highly. It was the WarCom. Yeah, this is a different case, but nonetheless, I think you're going to see some things this year that really hit hard when it comes to muzzle device selection. I keep seeing more silencer mount companies pop up, and I think, don't get me wrong, I think that's great. I think the more the merrier. I think it's awesome. There are so many machine shops and companies getting into the space. I mean, I think that's good for the market. I think it can help consumers due to competition. That's fine, great. But at the same time, I think these mount companies, and in some cases silencer companies, really have no idea what they're doing when it comes to silencer mount design, frankly, and specifically how it influences performance when plugged into the first expansion chamber of a silencer. I think a lot of people are claiming to understand what happens, but I can assure you, by testing things and analyzing things, I can assure you that many don't know or don't understand. Because if they did, the results would be different. So this isn't really like me speculating, as is just reporting to you the reality. Okay? And please, if you're upset about this, I'm sorry, but don't be upset at me. Be upset at the reality. Okay? So if you take something like the TSWIF and you get, well, how do I say this? I don't want to like talk it up or something and get people all mad. Let me say it this way. Let me say this a different way that I think is more applicable to the broad market. I think if you take something like the TSWIF and you look at what's going on here, I think you really get a front row seat to what a designer has to deal with when something is constrained out of bounds. Those of you who think, like, for example, this is a good question for you, a thought experiment for you. Like, those of you who think that a Surefire SOCOM 556 RC2 or a 556 Mini 2 is just a tube with some baffles forward of the blast chamber, and if you chopped off the blast chamber of the silencers and then you just put like a blast diverter or like another tube on there, if you think that those Surefire silencers would behave the same way, you have no idea. Like, you don't understand what's really happening in the Surefire silencers, because there are things, for example, in the Surefire system that happen in early time that make those systems actually very advanced, and that is an Ops Inc. derivative. Okay, that is not like, don't just because the Surefire design is old, don't sleep on it, you know, and look, and I'm saying this, Surefire's not a client. It's like we've tested and analyzed publicly more Surefire products than anyone on earth, and we did it completely with internal funding. And it's objective, and I can tell you that the Surefire systems are actually very advanced, or at least they were for the time. And there are blast load reflections and early expansions that happen behind the mount interface that are really important for the Surefire performance. So, you know, you compare something like that to any silencer that just has to screw into a blast diverter, and, well, it's a different sport, because just because something's the same length doesn't mean it can be compared apples to apples on like how it should be performing. And this is going to become more clear as we get further into this, but like, I saw some comments when just some feedback from just some, not feedback, but I think some impressions from some random people, anonymous people online, when they saw this data and they comparing it in a way, and I'm like, I don't know that you guys really are, some of you are grasping like what's actually happening in systems like this. And, you know, so we'll see. One moment. And I want to be clear, like, I'm definitely not being an apologist for this TSWIF thing and its performance. Like, I'm not like making excuses for it, or no, I'm not. I want you to understand the physics, because on the contrary, I actually think it's doing pretty well on this. I'm serious, and we've evaluated some other things for some other clients behind the scenes that we can't discuss. But from what I can tell you, nobody making these blast diverter silencers has discovered a holy grail. Nobody. I'll tell you right now. And I tell people all the time, the blast chamber of a silencer is just as important as the wing design of an aircraft. Like and by that I mean, I don't mean that literally, but I mean like it's where the magic happens. Like if you wanted Boeing or Airbus or Lockheed, pick a company, maybe not Boeing, pick a company. If you wanted those companies or whomever to design a new aircraft and they have to use a wing made by like the Wright brothers, don't be surprised when the rest of the aircraft looks awesome, but the wings are dumb and the plane doesn't live up to your expectations. Okay, that is a very extreme and simplistic example, but I do think it fits. Those of you who sleep on first expansion chamber load dynamics, well, it's not necessarily your fault because it's super complicated. And also, you've had 3 decades in the silencer industry of so-called experts telling you things that are completely false. So it's actually, I don't hold anything against you for not understanding it. It's because it's super hard to understand. But I'm here to tell you, like, it's important. Okay, cool. So like I said in the intro talk, this TSWIF thing, it gives folks an option who otherwise would literally never be able to use a silencer without drilling out their pin and welded blast can off of their gun. So let's take a look at what it does on the M4. We'll talk technically. I hope that was a good like primer for you to see what we're looking at here, but this is one of the more complicated systems that we've ever looked at, so I wanted to hit the ground running properly. So bottom line up front, and please pull up the article. It's article 6.193 at pewscience.com. Members, pull up the full version. If you're not a member, that's cool. Pull up the free version and you can follow along. Bottom line up front, 26.6 suppression rating, 1 meter left of the end of the silencer, 1.6 meters above the ground in the true free field. Okay. 23.4 suppression rating, 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear. That brings us to a composite suppression rating of 28.7 on the 14.5-inch mid-gas M4. Okay, that's the Daniel Defense M4 A1R3 with an H2 buffer, extremely important. Okay, standard gas system, the 076 gas port, standard rifle. Okay, it's important you know that, but right away, you look at these ratings, 26.6 at the muzzle, 23.4 at the ear. Not remarkable. No, not really. Excuse me. But also, they're not as low as one would think they would be, given the physical realities of the system. And this is objectively true, and I want to show you some stuff. Let's talk about it, okay? Scroll down. Scroll down, past the table. Don't let it scare you. It's okay. Numbers are scary. Let's talk about shapes instead. Geometry's fun. Pictures. Figure 1, blast overpressure in the free field. Right away, you see lower bolt speed and easy to spot FRP blast overpressure. Right? Those are probably the 2 biggest things that popped up to you in figure 1A, right? What's one thing we know about FRP? Boy, it is hard to quench FRP when the silencer's short, isn't it? Yeah, sure is. Boy, is it hard. Technically difficult. So what you see in the zoomed in early time view of the combustion propagation in figure 1B, you see that big FRP pulse, yes? Very easy to see. The coupled jet, that it's very severe. But the thing you see next is extremely interesting. The FRP simply gets in line. It's like, nah, son, we're gonna fall in line now. I don't want that smoke. It just chills out. It really does. It really calms down fast, and that's very interesting. And what's the result from that behavior? Well, if you check out the blast momentum propagation, look at the impulse in figure 2, you see how the FRP signal in figure 2A or in figure 2B as well, you see how it jumps up early, like you would completely expect, given what you saw in the pressure history. And then what? You have a rate change, don't you? Oh, it's kind of odd. And then what? Well, it stabilizes. Pretty much the same maximum as the other shots. So what's going on here is latent quenching, because you don't have enough time for the method used, so you have to quench later, but you do quench. Yeah, so that's the harsh reality. The dimension of time we spoke about earlier, you're handicapped there. And so the TSWIF tries really, really hard. It gives it the old college try, and it does a good job. But in the end, you are still going to hear the FRP. There is no escaping that. Can't mask it completely. But for a little guy in the end of a blast diverter, hey, not too shabby, I would say. Objectively, not too shabby. After FRP, look at the rest of the combustion propagation and the rest of the shots. You know what typically happens from short silencers on 5.56, right? You know what typically happens? Not this. Not this. Remember the Surefire Mini 2 we spoke about earlier? Like, on average, very similar risk profile. Yes, very similar risk profile on average. In a gross sense. True. Very true. But if you look at the pressure and impulse waveforms in the Mini 2 report, which is easy to find because it's linked in the TSWIF report down in Research Note 2. Okay, so there's a hyperlink right there to find it very quickly. Or if you just use the rankings table or whatever you want, you're going to see the difference. Just looking at the waveforms, okay? The Mini 2 can't keep up with the same consistency at peak impulse delivery as the TSWIF, and its FRP isn't as well controlled as the TSWIF FRP either. Things are way more violent in early time with the Mini 2. And to top it off, look at the weapon kinematics. The bolt carrier speed's higher with the Mini 2. So what? You're driving up back pressure with the Mini 2 with the silencer that's only 5 inches long compared to this one, and it's the same length. Interesting. It's interesting to compare it that way. Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, overall, the risk metrics are similar. I mean, remember, the TSWIF is 26.6 of the muzzle. The Mini 2 is 28. Okay. TSWIF's 23.4 at the ear. Mini 2 is 21.4. Okay. So they're flip-flopping in gross metrics, but the behavior of the two systems is different. And I think it's important to know that they're different if you actually shoot your rifles, because the gun is definitely going to behave differently with these two silencers. And again, as tested, they are identical in length. Okay? One moment. Yeah, you see? These conclusions are important. See, we can learn from consistent silencer testing and research. What, you think it's only about sound? Never was. Spoiler alert. We're measuring blast load propagation, and we've been doing it since the first report. What? Because it's called the silencer sound standard, you think it's only sound? Yeah. Fatal error. Don't assume. All right, so let's look at another comparison really quickly. I wish I had one in front of me. I had to give it back. It was on loan. The Knight's Armament MCQ PRT. Yeah, little guy. Man, that thing is so cool. I'm a big fan of the Knight stuff. I like the way they look. I think the mount's cool. They're not perfect by any means, but I still think they're cool. I mean, you look at the Knight's thing, yeah, it's 4.4 inches long total. So you're about a half an inch shorter than the TSWIF and the Mini 2. But man, flow rate? Yeah, flow rate's good. Very high flow rate on that MCQ PRT from Knights. Flow rate's great, just like the flow rate with the TSWIF is great too. Now, signature suppression? Brother. Oh, brother. You're going to lose a lot of suppression performance with the Knight silencer. And look, I'm mentioning the Knight silencer and that Surefire Mini 2 because those are the small silencers we have on this host in the pedigree so far. And those of you who've used blast diverters like law enforcement and stuff, like you may be cross-shopping Knights and Surefire and maybe the TSWIF too now. So maybe this helps you with those comparisons. I think it's valuable. Keeping length to a minimum is important for a lot of people. And okay, so just think about it. I mean, before we go on to more comparisons, like if you're a member, scroll down here. If you're a member, before we go on, I don't want to leave this. Check out the operator's head data in the report. Section 6193.1.2, you're going to see what I'm talking about with regard to the back pressure and the weapon kinematics. You will have a slower weapon with the TSWIF compared with the Mini 2. Okay, and I think the system's going to feel different to you when you shoot them. I think if you shoot them side by side in the same gun, you're gonna experience that. Okay. Now, if you do, please use the 3-prong with the Mini 2. If you use a ward comp with the Mini 2, it's just going to be a bad day for you. So comparison-wise, if you keep scrolling down more, to figure 5, which is the bar chart, we've already hit the main comparison points that make sense in this chart. Something we didn't do in the report was compare this to the Mark 18 data set because I think it's out of context for that formal report, and I really didn't want to go off on that tangent in the report, but I've been thinking about a way to talk to you about it, and so I think we're going to do that now. And I think this is going to add value to even to those of you who read this report and already understand it. I think we can add more value to your understanding if we talk about some data in an intelligent way. We got to be careful the way we do it. But if we talk about it in an intelligent way, we can hop to different apparatus and give us some comparisons. Okay, let's do that. And so what you can do, if you go to the member ranking section below the table in the visualization tool, and I know non-members you can't see this, but you're in luck today because we're going to tell you about it. This is what you could be using if you're a member. If you go to the visualization chart below the member rankings table in the member ranking section, and you select 5.56 ammo only, so that's going to give you all the 5.56 tests. It doesn't matter what gun, it's going to be all 5.56 tests. Select 5.56 ammo, and then set your max tested length slider to 5 inches. Okay? And remember, this is max tested length, not make-believe, super happy fun time length. This is the max tested length with mount and silencer, okay? When you do that, max of 5 inches, only 3 brands are going to pop up. You're going to see Cat, Knights, and Surefire. Yep. And there are going to be 11 data points. What are they? Well, 8 of them are going to be the MCQ. Why? Well, because we had that huge Knights study. So there's that. 2 of the data points are going to be from the Mini 2 because we did the 3-prong in the ward comp. Okay. And 1 of the data points is going to be the TSWIF. Okay. And if you look at where those data points sit, you're going to see what I mean when I think it's important to compare the Mini 2 and the TSWIF. Okay. Just look. Now, let's increase the length slider a little bit. Okay. You increase the length slider, you have to go to 5.3 inches before you get another data point. And when you do that, what do you get? Polonium K. That's right. Now you're at 5.3 inches, polonium K. Where does it fall? Well, muzzle suppression rating is over 30, so it crosses that line. Why do you think a lot of people love the polonium K? But what else happens? Well, its back pressure is super high, so it has worse free field operator protection than both the TSWIF and the Mini 2. Again, we're comparing different hosts, but just stick with me, okay? The TSWIF and Mini 2 are on a harder host for operator protection. The Mark 18 is easier to get the higher shooter's ear. So if the polonium K is still not reaching it, you see, so that's a big deal, okay? So, but in the defense of the polonium K, keep in mind these are untuned guns. So I just want to I want you to have these peg points for perspective, because my main point here is, you see how important length is? When you're this short, dude, 0.3 inches, that's actually a really big change. And with a dedicated blast chamber, like an actual silencer, you can do a lot of work with 5.3 inches. You see, because it's not that the polonium K is 5.3 inches and the Cat TSWIF and the Mini 2 are only 5 inches. Yes, that's true, but we're comparing different things, because the polonium K didn't just get 0.3 inches long, all longer than 5. It got 0.3 inches longer than 5 in a complete silencer design. If you're not going to see where I'm going with this, just stick with me. Now let's go further. Now go to 5.4 inches in your filter. Another thing pops up. What pops up? PWS BDE 556 short config. Okay. It's outperformed by the polonium K, so it's not really digging in. Okay, whatever. Now, what's the next longest? You have to go all the way to 5.6 inches. What happens now? Huxworks pops up. What is it? Flow 556K. Oh, huge data point. Operator protection shoots up above 30. Huge. Amazing. But muzzle suppression rating is lower than the TSWIF and the Mini 2 and the BDE and the Polonium K. Oh, you see how hard this is getting? Dude, I told you, short silencers, it's hard. You run out of time, especially with high flow. Okay, see how hard it is? Let's go longer. Okay, go to 5.8 inches. Okay, 5.8 inch silencer on the Mark 18s next. Okay, you're getting close to 6 inches, but you're not there yet. Now, you might be thinking, oh, wow, this is going to be good. Oh, man, 5.8 inches. Oh, you're about to tell me something really awesome. Oh, man, it's going to be so great. 5.8 inches long, we're going to get into something high performance. Surely that's long enough. No, that's where you would be wrong. At 5.8 inches in total tested length, we have the Energetic Armament ARX, the ARX. Oh, literally one of the worst performing 5.56 silencers that has ever been evaluated by our laboratory in our entire history of operation. 16.6 at the muzzle, 19.2 at the ear. When we published that report back in 2022, there were a few people that were like, well, yeah, but it's so small. No, I don't think so. It's almost 3/4 inch longer than the Mini 2. And when you're that short, bro, little changes in length make a big difference. Even the MCQ kills the ARCs. Okay, so enough about that. But this is for context. What, you want context or not? Let's keep getting longer and see what happens. Okay, 5.9 inches. Huxworks HXQD 556K. Wow. Yeah, outperformed by the TSWIF. Okay, now go 6.1 inches. What do you get? Now you're at the Cat WB on the Mark 18 and on the M4. Oh, okay, we'll stop there. You see what I'm saying? Length matters. Length matters. And when you talk about 5-inch silencers, you are talking about true K silencers. You add 1/10 of an inch here and there, and you're giving yourself a lot of help. I want to go through that exercise like that to give you context, because I don't think people truly understand what short 5.56 silencers do. I just gave you tested lengths as installed with the mount. Guys, the lengths people mention in a lot of marketing is just as deceptive as the old sound measurements they would mention. Okay, be vigilant. You can use the member ranking section at Pew Science, and if you're not a member and you want to check out the length, look at the first paragraph in every report we publish. We always put it in there. Sometimes we mess up and we don't put the right, and people help correct us, but we try to do it right. Okay, so please. All right, I mean, this is important, and again, I hope I was clear that I'm not being an apologist for the performance of the silencer, but I want to give you context and also understand that it's only 5 inches long in this tested configuration, and even in that respect, it's not a 5-inch silencer. It's adapted to a blast diverter, and blast diverters are not going to help you as much as a holistic design. Again, to use that analogy before, if you took a Surefire Mini 2 and you cut the blast chamber off and replaced it with just a regular tube, you wouldn't get the same performance because there are things happening in its blast chamber that are part of the silencer. Go get a Noveske KX3 Flaming Pig. Design a silencer for it. You see how far you get. I mean, it can be done, but I'm just telling you, it's not the same thing. Okay, buy it or don't. I don't care what you do with the TSWIF, honestly. But okay, so that's the TSWIF technical stuff. Oh, material. I need to tell you about the materials. So, okay, the one I have in my hand, it's the one we tested, and this is the 14.5 model with the little bomb thingy. This is a TIC material. It's a proprietary titanium that Cat's using now. It's a different heat treat, I think, is the main difference. The one thing that I have been told is that it's supposed to have a higher heat resistance or heat tolerance for firing schedules than the typical titanium. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the ones you're going to get if you buy this are going to be Inconel anyway, so whatever. Okay, now I'm done. TSWIF. Short, adaptable to all your pin and weld blast cans. If you're into that, Consistent blast propagation, low back pressure, punches up for its size. Yeah, that's about it. Only 2.6 inches past the blast diverter. It's small, dude. Is it a niche product? Absolutely. But it's interesting. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this, so it's cool. Stay tuned for more really short things from several companies. It's going to be crazy. I think my prediction is that the form factor wars are going to heat up, so that's exciting. Big thanks again to Cat's R&D group, as always, for trusting our laboratory to characterize the performance of their silencers. We're honored that they keep asking us to do it. Means a lot. So thank you. Okay, all right. Let's move into topic 2 at a time of 45 minutes and 39 seconds. If there's anything else you guys want to know about the TSWIF, just email us, okay? Be happy to speak with you. I hope that was a good technical talk, and just so you know, there are distal vents in that thing. If you look at like the rat flow configuration, or the cat rat flow configuration, the distal end kind of looks like the TSWIF one. Topic 2, SIG 6.75 inch 300 blackout Rattler LT. Yeah, we ordered one from SIG. Back order came in. It wasn't that long. It took a little over a month, I guess, to get it after we bought it. So the question is, how does it differ from the 6.75 inch Virtus TACOPS that we use for testing? It's a really good question, and I think it's a similar gun, but it's also very different. I've been messing with it, so I'm going to give you some initial observations and thoughts and some measurements that are actually on the technical data page of the website. If you guys didn't know, we have that under services and support on the menu. You can go to the small arms technical data page and you can get some measurements of some cool stuff. So this is hot off the FedEx truck. We just got it, and this is a commercial gun. So it came with a dumb grip and a stock that was kind of not big enough to actually use efficiently. So I don't know why I ordered that. I should have got the pistol, but it's a factory SBR. So at least that's done. That way I don't have to like mark it and engrave it and everything. You know what I mean? I was like, let's just get the factory SBR. It's like actually easier for us to get a Form 3 than it is to deal with all that crap. So initial impressions, the carrier's different. Yeah, I think it's lighter. I don't know that though, because I couldn't separate something, but we'll go through it. So the photograph I posted with today's episode has the side of the carrier shown that you don't usually see. So you can compare it with the Virtus carrier, and I put all the parts side by side. So here are my notes. I wrote this down. I wrote this down because there's a lot. Okay, so the carrier is different. It accommodates a different type of firing pin safety, and I think it can accommodate mil-spec triggers in the gun, whereas the Virtus couldn't. I think. I still got to look at more of that. The barrel's lighter for sure. It's contoured to make it lighter, so you can actually see that in the photograph. The factory muzzle device, it comes installed. The Virtus didn't have one installed when it came. The LT has one installed, and it has a warning card in the box, and it says you need to call customer service if you want to remove the muzzle device because it has rock set. And I'm like, okay. I bought a tool to secure the barrel, and I think I'm going to use that to heat up. I'm going to heat up the muzzle device and use a wrench. I put the tool in the photo too, so you can see that tool on the right part of because the barrel extension of the SIG MCX barrel, it won't fit in like a normal like reaction rod thing. So you got to use the SIG tool. SIG sells it on the website. It's not made by SIG. It's made by Mod Dev or something, but I bought one. Anyway, there's that. So don't break your barrel or muzzle device by using the wrong tool, and just call SIG if you need help. If you're not capable of doing something like that. The recoil spring assembly, it's marked blue, and one second. Yeah, the recoil assembly is marked blue, and I was told the reason for that is to not confuse them with the MCX. Okay, when they're installing things. The guide rods, I was told, and the spring plate are aluminum instead of steel, and that's to save weight. Okay, fine. The gas plug, the or the gas valve that came with the gun, it is actually also marked F03. Okay, I examined it today. Again, go to the Small Arms technical data page on the website. There's another table now. I added that table today. The F03 valve that came with the LT has ports that are each 1,000th bigger than the ports in the FO3 valve that came with the Virtus. So the FO3 valves are different. And is that a sampling size issue because I only have 2 valves and the 1,000th is like just a manufacturing anomaly? Well, I don't know, but I don't know. But you know what else is different with the LT? The LT barrel port's 2,000ths bigger. Okay. So you add that up. Could be why they say that the 6.75 Rattler LT works fine unsuppressed all the time. Could be. This gun doesn't come with sights. What the heck, Sig? Like, okay. The Virtus came with sights. Little flip up sights. This one didn't come with any. Fine. The lower receiver is different. You have a steel sling swivel. Say that 3 times fast. Steel sling swivel. Little insert there. It's steel instead of the aluminum. So that's cool. So that might be better long term if you're into that. Also, you have an ambidextrous bolt catch release. If you're into that. I was messing with the gun and I hit that. I was like, whoa, surprised me. The upper is different. Yeah. There's no forward assist on this gun. Okay. I think you can get one if you want one. I don't know if I want one. Handguard's different. There's screw inserts on the upper. And so you put the screw through the handguard to secure the handguard to the upper, which is actually cool. I like that. I think that's a big improvement from the Virtus. But for the Virtus, I have this aftermarket thingy that allows you, it basically goes and clamps on the inside of the top of the upper around the barrel, and it little wedge that you put screws through the handguard, and you can actually make your Virtus handguard really secure with that thing. Although I have noticed under heavy fire with the Virtus handguard, with that thing installed, the handguard actually went forward a little bit, separated from the upper. So I was like, whoa. I wonder if that was like recoil induced. I was like, how come that moved? Shouldn't move. It was weird. I was like, why did that happen? I don't know. This is something I noticed happened with the Virtus. But anyway, something else about on this LT, the screws, the handguard screws that were not present on the Virtus, something you need to know that I was made aware of, Sig told me, they're Torx Plus screws. They're not regular Torx bit screws. So you're going to want to use Torx Plus bits so you don't strip your screws. You want to be able to apply proper torque to those fasteners, and to do that you need to use the correct tools. If you're not familiar with the difference, because I just eyeballed it, I didn't look. If you're not familiar with the difference between Torx and Torx Plus fasteners, the Torx Plus, it has more of a surface to engage. It has more of proper bearing area for torque application. So a regular Torx bit will fit into a Torx Plus fastener, but a Torx Plus bit will not fit into a regular Torx fastener. And if you use a regular Torx bit in a Torx Plus fastener, because it's a little loose in there, you could strip them if you apply a lot of torque. I'm not saying it's not going to work in a pinch, but just be careful. You feel me? Okay. What else about that? Oh yeah, same for the barrel screws, but I can't remember. Okay, so just get a whole set of Torx Plus bits if you need them. Regarding the piston, looks the same to me. Charging handle looks a little different, but kind of the same. It looks a little different. I think the charging handle might have a little bit of shorter levers. I have to look again. I'll have to look at the picture. I forgot. I think all these parts are interchangeable. The handguard might not be, and yeah, I think the people making that LVAW handguard said they have versions for both. I don't know. Thing is though, if you use it on the new LT, there's no screw. Man, you know what would be really cool? If the people making the LVAW handguard with the heat shield that I want so bad, if they made a way to connect to this screw of the LT upper, that'd make it perfect, dude. Yeah. One thing that I thought was interesting, I'm just going through my list here. This is the last thing. It came, the last official thing. This one came with a 300 blackout Magpul PMag. And it's actually for 300 blackout instead of 5.56. It's labeled as one. And that's going to matter to you, just for you people new to 300 blackout. It's really going to be important for you if you shoot subsonic rounds. If you shoot supers, usually the ogive of the bullet is fine in a 5.56 mag. If you shoot subsonics, the ogive of the bullet is you're gonna have a problem with feeding in the 5.56 PMags. Usually. So, especially like the Gen 1s or whatever. So it's cool that they gave a 300 blackout PMag. I want to say that the Virtus TACOPS that we bought a while back came with a metal Surefeed mag. And which, by the way, the 5.56 Surefeed mags work fine with all 300 blackout that I've used. I love Surefeed magazines. Now, Magpul, you know I love you, but bro, Surefeed. I think they stopped making Surefeed mags. Anyway, so little stuff here and there. You know, I hope that helps you kind of understand, like, at broad strokes. I will say, and this is more of a subjective thing, to me, and look, don't shoot the messenger on this. And look, Sig, if you're listening, I don't mean anything bad by this. I feel like the fit and finish isn't the same quality as the Virtus was. Just a little, not huge problems, just little stuff here and there. I'm like, it's not going to matter long term at all, but just you can tell that it's like their manufacturing operations are like really blowing and going. Which, hey, that's awesome. Make stuff, but I can tell like some of this aluminum is like nicks, and like they could do a little better, but I think it's mostly good. It's not a huge deal. That was just something I noticed whenever I buy a new gun, I look at that stuff, right? I'm just, it is what it is. After I examine the system more, I'm going to let you know what I find more technically. There's one technical question I have about it, and it's one big question I think we all have. Is the mechanical system, the reciprocating system, and the gas system, are those differences, like, are they big enough to matter? Like, do the port size differences really matter? If there are mass differences in the reciprocating system, do they matter? I couldn't, and I only had like in front of me for 5 minutes. Otherwise, I would have tried harder. But for some reason, I was having a little bit of a trouble removing the recoil guide spring assembly from the bolt carrier, but I didn't look at the manual, so I don't know. On the Virtus gun, it's super easy to remove. On this one, there's a little pin thing, and I couldn't remove it because what I was going to do is I was going to weigh the carrier on both of them, but I couldn't get a carrier weight on the new one because I couldn't remove the spring assembly. So anyway, so just because the guide rods are different weight doesn't mean that that's going to affect the system at all with regard to signature. Understand? I mean, there might be some small resonance items that could change some stuff, but I don't know if that's that concerning. One of the reasons I'm looking into this so deeply, and some people are like, "Oh, why do you care?" It's like, well, we tested and we published data with the Virtus, right, with the TACOPS for the CAT system, for that CAT RAT with 3 configurations, and that was a lot of work. And I'm trying to avoid having to do that again if we change guns. And so I'm kind of thinking, if we just keep testing with the Virtus for everything, I mean, you guys probably wouldn't care, but we might care, because what I was concerned with, I was like, oh my gosh, what if we keep testing with the Virtus and then all the new guns people are buying are so different that our results aren't going to be the same and you guys aren't going to get good info because you can't use it. But the more I look at this, the more I'm like, it might not be that bad. It might be so similar that you're going to be closer than most things anyway if you have an LT. So it might be okay. So it might be that we keep using the Virtus, because the alternative is, well, we start using the LT we just bought for testing, and then we go back and we see if the CAT system's different. But if we do that, then there's always that thing where people are going to be like, well, they didn't test the CAT system on the LT, and they're playing favorites, and you know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. So I'm like, let's just test everything on the Virtus maybe. That way we relegate that to lab duty. It's similar enough to the LT that, you know, the results are still applicable to everybody, and then I get to play with a new gun that's not a test host. I don't know. Do you see what I'm doing? Like, I don't know. It might not matter. It's just like these, and what's going to happen if like then SIG comes out with like another generation MCX and the 6.75 barrel changes again to something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. They come out with so many dang generations of this gun. You know, we wanted the best 300 blackout semi-auto test house possible. I think we made the right move. It's just, did we use a gun that's out of date? And it's like, well, if it's SIG, maybe the gun's going to be out of date no matter what we pick, because they're going to come out with a new one. So maybe it's a losing. Maybe we just cut our losses and stick with this one. You know, I don't know. It might be a wash. So I just want to give you this quick update about this. I know a lot of people were asking about the little different idiosyncrasies, and I hope the port sizes help you. They're really not that much different. But I have been told that the Rattler LT 6.75 inch gun, as you can tell by having a muzzle device on it from the factory, it is designed to also be reliable unsuppressed. That is not the case with the Virtus 6.75 TACOPS. That thing's not even designed to shoot unsuppressed at all. The handguard that comes with it is longer than the barrel. You see? So maybe the TACOPS is a good silencer host test platform for Pew Science, since it's only made for silencers. Maybe that's why we stick with it. I don't know. That's all for today, folks. I hope that helps you, okay? I hope you find the information in this episode informative. Please stay tuned for next week. We're going to have more data for you. That'll be exciting. And we also have some really cool projects in the works that I hope to complete soon to be able to help give you more information too, okay? Stay safe out there. I will talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.